Just like I sort of predicted would happen, life got busy today. I was busy at my day job. I had some inspections I had to be out doing, and they kept me busy. They made me tired, but I'm still here. I'm starting late, but I'm gonna get a little bit done anyway, just because I want to keep in the habit of both streaming, and I also want to be in the habit of making sure I don't fall off the horse for creating more stuff for all my players. So we're here, we're live, we're gonna do it. This is EnviroBoy. It is Friday, February 19th, 2021, and we're gonna do some writing. I'm not gonna go longer tonight, I don't think. If I do, I'll probably switch over in game for a little bit, but truth be told, I am so tired right now. I am incredibly beat. So we're gonna get some 45 minutes done here. Um, what I want to do tonight, we're doing our writing stream, and what I think I want to do is I want to do a little bit of sort of housekeeping type stuff is what I've been feeling like I need to do. Pardon me for just a second here. What? What are you screaming at me for, cat? I don't know if my mic picked that up. She's yelling at me because I'm being goofy and goofing off on my phone while I'm supposed to be streaming. Hold on a second. It's quiet. I need some tunes. I need some tunes in my life right now. So let's see here. I don't want premium right now. I just want to look at some stations. See what they have. Hi, kitty. Wonder if the kitty will get picked up in the camera. Probably not. The camera's pretty zoomed in on me. Hi, Leela. How you doing, Leela? My little cat, Leela. She is now gonna snuggle up on my lap, looks like. Oh, gosh, it's so adorable. Hold on. Let me see if we can get... There she is. The lighting is not doing it. That's head. That's butt. And this is a whole cat. Oh, crap. Now I gotta reset my camera up for zooming in on myself. There we go. There we go. Paid my cat tax. She's just too cute not to share, isn't she? I know it. She's like, it's cold. You keep it too cold in this apartment, so I need to take your body heat and stay warm that way. Goofball. Gosh, what kind of tunes do I want? I really want... You know what? I'm feeling the lo-fi again. I dip into that well a lot, but that's what I'm feeling. Let's see here. Is that... That feels like it's probably a pretty good volume right there. Oh, gosh, that's the mood. That's the mood right there, man. Yeah. Alright, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. Are you feeling it, little girl? Of course you're not. You don't have the headphones in. You don't hear it. No, little girl. Yeah, she's purring. She's a happy girl. She's happy that I'm around. Yeah, I'm gonna join us and gonna help me talk through some ideas. At least got one person checking out my stream, and it's my little kitty here. um, all right, so yeah, so what I want to do tonight, since I've only got about 45 minutes here, I'm starting late, and I'm so tired. There's no way I'm going to be going late. Um, I want to work on doing a little bit of housekeeping stuff, something that I've been putting off for a little while. I want to build. I'm a big fan of templates when I'm doing my D&D writing. Um, when you keep templates, it's much easier to remember to get all the details and to keep things sort of cohesive when you're writing new stuff. So I find them to be incredibly valuable. Plus, it helps stimulate that creative process when you've got sort of a, like an idea that you're wanting to work on. If you have a template, you don't have to sit there trying to think and organize things in your head. You have already pre-thought out what all you need to put together for this, that, or the other thing. But excuse me, sorry, I'm drinking a ginger ale and it makes me so burpy. My apologies. Um, I know, little girl. Um, but yeah, so having that template really frees up a lot of brain space to sort of think about the creative parts about it, not the organizational parts of it, and it makes it a lot easier to make sure that I'm not leaving any gaps when I'm trying to write something. So I'm a big fan of templates. Um, and I've found tools to help me stylize the templates within my OneNote uh, programming. That's how I organize and do my writing is in OneNote. I find it's the easiest tool for keeping everything that way, or keeping everything sort of organized and straightforward and easy to follow. So just like to offer up some examples, right? So I've got some templates here for the Atlas section, right? So here's our territory template. People have probably seen me working with this one. Um, City template, shop template, um, and adventure templates. The adventure template is the one that we've used the most on the stream because that's the one that I use anytime I'm making a dungeon, making some sort of like really heavily interactive, more combative type of thing, right? So I have those templates. Um, and I want to work on getting those templates going for for all kinds of stuff. So I have a template here for deities, right? Because I went through a little phase where I was working on a lot of the pantheon for my world, and so I want to be working on some of those. See you later, kitty. There's noise happening in the hallway. She has to go check it out, guard, and make sure we're safe. She's a good kitty. Oops, hold on a second. Sorry, my life is busy today. um, all right. So I want to work on a template for working on the races, because I want to. Sorry, there's cat hair all over the place. I want to within my world. I like to always be able to sort of create enough lore and backstory in the world so that players I can give them little tidbits of information that they can use when creating a character. Um, Gosh, man, my voice is so dead after work today. I had to go out and do some inspections, so I was out at factories, talking extra loud because we're all wearing masks and everything and standing 6 feet apart. So you gotta like really project your voice when you're doing inspections, because I do inspections of like factories and stuff. So I go into places, and they just have all kinds of loud machinery. Like today, I was. I'm gonna turn the volume down on the music just a bit more. There we go. Um, so today, like I was at a place that makes bowling balls. Actually, it was really interesting. It was really cool. But they had all kinds of lathes going on and all kinds of cutting systems and tools, and had some loud machinery, right? And you're trying to have conversations right next to it. And I had like 2 inspections that I had to do in those types of environments, those types of very loud, large, heavy machinery. Wearing your earplugs and everything, and oh man, trying to have conversations in those environments, it shreds your voice. So I sound like I'm dying right now. I promise I'm not ill or anything. I'm just beat down, man. Chugging the soda, hoping the fizz kind of helps soothe the throat a bit. Oh well, what can you do? So anyway, so I want to work on a template for the races here, so that way I can sort of have almost like my thought is to sort of turn it into a default handout, in air quotes. Where's my other hand? There's my other hand. don't know which hand's which. I don't know what to do with my hands. I want to have it so they can be sort of like a handout of sorts for my players. So I can, like, if I have a new player or my old players are for some reason creating a new character because their old one got wasted or something, um, I can like provide a little handout of sorts so that people can have an understanding of like where their character might come from, what the different racial traits are, and how those fit into the world. So that way they can sort of build a backstory around that. Because I know players, sort of most players that I've encountered anyway, sort of inherently want their backstory to fit in to the world, so that way they can be a part of the world. And that makes perfect sense, and I encourage that. You know, I want them to have their own unique backstories, but I want them to feel like it comes from a place that is cohesive with the world we're in. So that's kind of what I want to do with this here. And so the first thing I'm wondering is if I need to do separate templates for playable races versus fringe races. I'm going to start with just a standard, just like one standard template here. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to have it with the playable races in mind. And then if I feel like I need to, if I feel like it's what I have in mind for creating a backstory, a history for the fringe races, then I'll start, I'll sort of create a new one, probably using this one as a template. But let's just get into it here. So we're just going to do just up here, we're just going to call it the inside cover flap. Just a couple sentences that give a cursory idea of what the sentences of what the race is known for. Oh my gosh, I'm looking at my hands. Oh my gosh, my hands are dry. Whew. One of the places, so I went and inspected bowling balls. Or a bowling ball factory. Like literally, it was a bowling ball factory. It's a factory that makes bowling balls. It was really cool. But the other place I was at, ooh, that feels good. Oh, gosh, that's soothing. The other facility that I inspected today was a food production facility. They did like, it's like a large scale bakery. You know, like think about when you're buying a bag of pretzels, right? Where does that come from? Where does that get made? And so I had to inspect one of those today too for their air quality. And as you can probably imagine and hopefully appreciate, working, spending a day in a food factory, I washed my hands a lot. I mean, a lot. It was a lot of a lot of hand sanitizer, a lot of soap and water, and my hands are dry and cracked and all kinds of nasty. But no one cares about that. You're not even looking at my hands right now. So yeah, so back to this. It's known for throughout the world of Zaoria. So I like having sort of like a very quick Cliff Notes thing at the top of any template. It's really just sort of meant to, like, just like I say there, it's the inside cover flap. It's the back of the book, right? It's just that one little bit, that blurb that just gives you an idea. So for our first header here, I'm just gonna format that up a little bit. Oops, holy crap, what am I doing? Whoa, I am all over the place right now. Okay, hold up. Just get rid of that. I don't want that stuff there. Keep the disclaimers down there just for posterity, though I don't really intend for it to matter there. So, so thinking about the race, there's a lot that I like to try and include when I'm writing a backstory of a race and trying to like include them in sort of the history of the world. Um, and I think what I want to open it with is origins. So whenever, in fact, actually, here's how I want to do this. I want to set this up. I'm going to make this sort of an overarching section, and we're going to call it. We're going to call this history, and then we're going to go down here, and then going to do my go to is header 4 there, but we're going to turn it red. There we go. Yep, that's what we want there. And so we're going to do origins. Now the origins, this is the section where we discuss where the race originally came from. Was it an evolutionary process? Were they created by the gods? Are they magically born of the ether? Things like that. So within my world, I like to do. I don't always when I'm doing the races within my world. I don't always adhere to the sort of official D&D lore, which I know in some circles can be sometimes frowned upon. But screw off. It's my world. And so really it's more about trying to create a history so there's sort of an understanding of where they come from that sort of informs then what the personalities of the races will be, is sort of the idea here. So, hey kitty. Cat's back. She's back. Oh, wait, no, but she's leaving again. So the kids are being, my neighbor kids are being, are being quite noisy outside. It is, it's not my favorite. But maybe I'm just a grumpy old man. I don't know. So yeah. I like the origins to be sort of like, sort of like a clearly defined thing. And I think it's important to sort of understand the origins of any given race, to really understand where they come from, because I think that really informs a lot of sort of what else exists in their history, right? What else? I don't know. What am I trying to say here? I don't know. It's valuable. It's valuable information. And the other thing too is, for me as the creator of this world, it's actually a really handy tool to have sort of this origin story of any race, because it can really inform, what types of artifacts would be big for this race. So if I'm doing a dungeon that's an abandoned, elven city or something like that, if that's what the dungeon is, then understanding the history of the elves, both their origins and sort of their mortal histories, all that kind of stuff, is really pretty valuable in terms of filling out that dungeon. If we understand where they come from, if it's for example, if it's a race that's sort of magically born of the ether, sort of like the Aarakocra are, then that that sort of informs what types of treasures are going to be there, what types of creatures are going to be drawn to cities that were once inhabited by the Aarakocra, and it can really help enrich the thematic elements of the world and of the dungeons that I'm doing. It sort of adds that consistency that it's something that often goes people don't realize it, it's not at the forefront of their conscience, but those are the types of things that really build a world that players can really get invested in and really fall deep into, is if you sort of have this clear consistency going on here. So we've got our origins. What else do I want to have in here? I want to do, so with my world, as I've sort of hinted, I don't know if how well I've taken the time to describe it, and the sort of the unfortunate thing about Twitch streaming, especially early on here, is that I'd probably have to redefine it a whole lot. But basically, my world, it can be broken down into two epochs that have happened in its history. There's the pre-unhinging, and then the present time, which is the post-unhinging. Unhinging was a big event. The way I describe it, it's like, imagine that all of the different planes, mortal, philosophical, elemental, all of the different planes are like different layers of water and oil in a jar, right? And so they sort of largely stay separated, and there are ways to sort of, move from one to the other and stuff like that. But they largely stay separated, even though they're in the same jar. The unhinging it was sort of like a magical event that is largely unexplained. Um, I've kind of in my mind come up with a few different potential explanations, but it's something that even I haven't really necessarily fleshed out and given a specific detailed history on. But in essence, the unhinging was like someone took that jar and just shook it up, right? And so all of the different layers got all kinds of mixed and merged. And so when it immediately happened, when the unhinging happened throughout the world, it sort of like everything fell apart. All kinds of different tears and rifts in the mortal plane showed up in between other elemental planes and stuff like that. So all kinds of creatures from the nine hells, from the water plane, from Mount Celestia, from all of these different planes, were suddenly finding themselves being thrown around, like dice in a cup, between all these different planes, and many of them got trapped in the wrong planes. Different creatures got sort of mixed up and combined with each other. It was just a mess, and that's sort of what led to the modern world as it is being a very dangerous, being a very messed up place. So the reason I mention that is because for the history here, what I'm wanting to do then is the next header is going to be pre-unhinging. Whoops, hold on, we gotta change that to being red here because it matters. I need it to look pretty. Pre-unhinging history. So this is going to be, this is where we discuss what the history of the race was prior to the unhinging. Many cultures, many cultures reached their peak during this period, and I don't know, what am I trying to say here? The cultures reached their peak during this period, and many races that are now a shadow of themselves were once heads of grand civilizations. This is the section for their previous triumphs to outline. So what I'm trying to say here, and I guess I could just type this out. What I'm trying to say here is like it'll outline what the general goal of anyone within the race is, right? So it's like, if the dwarves are obsessed with their historic dwarven empires in the mountains, right? There's going to be a lot of dwarves that are just very, very The Hobbit about it, and they want to reclaim their mountainous lands, their homes, and reclaim their former glory, So go ahead and say that. What the general goal of the race is, as far as returning to former glory. Boom. There we go. So then the next section is going to be, we're going to make that red just to be safe, post unhinging history. This is a shorter section about, oops, no, where's the B? About how the race has been affected by the new world, right? Because the unhinging obviously left the world very different, and so different races are going to have survived it with different methods of success, which will then mean with different levels of success. The race has been affected by the world, by the new world. It is the place to outline what they are up to these days. Boom. Okay, so that's the history section. That's going to be kind of the most important section here. I'm just going to put a new divider in here. Just put that in right there. And we want to do this big thing here, so we're just going to copy. Oops. Paste that right there. Do I want it just right there. Okay, so now this section, instead of history, this is going to be... So I don't want this to be something where I outline like rules or anything like that. That's what the player's handbook is for, and well, to to actually these days greater extent, player's handbook and supplemental materials describing the races and sort of where they come from and what their stats are. Not where they come from, just what their stats are, what their abilities are, all that kind of stuff. But I do want to describe sort of their affinities and how they fit in with the world, if that makes sense. So like I'm thinking here, so I'm going to do, let's try doing like, what do I want to call this section? Hey, how's it going, Dr. Smile? Glad to see you here. I'm working on outlining a little bit. I'm putting together, because it's a shorter stream, I started late and I'm really tired, so I'm probably not going late. So I've decided to use this evening to throw together a template to be able to fill out some history for the different races within my world here. So I'm throwing together a template to use in the future, and sort of just using that as a way to, describe to anyone who ends up watching this, sort of what the importance, at least for me as a world builder, of having these templates is. I kind of started off, I was describing how having the templates is nice because it frees up a lot of creative energy, so that rather than having to keep in mind the organizational part of it, I already have the template, and so it turns into more of a fill in the blank. So it's like I have an idea about a race, now I don't need to think about, I got to remember to do this, that, or the other thing. Instead, it's like, okay, I'm working on this race, I have a couple ideas, let's start filling it in here. And it really actually makes it much easier to be creative, to have that sort of framework to work in. So I'm creating this because it's a bit of a blank space in my template collection here. So we've talked about the history. For this thing, I want to do. I think I'm gonna call it like skill affinities. I don't know that I'm convinced I like that title for this section, but we're gonna do that. So I want to sort of talk about. Let's see here. I want to do heading, make it red. So let's do this one. Classes. This section is for players to give them an idea of what classes would be good fits for this race. So one of the things that I want to be able to do that I think, it's kind of mentioned in the lore and it kind of becomes obvious, but it never hurts to reinforce it, is the idea that there are some races and classes that mix better than others. And so I want to make sure that I have sort of in my own knowledge of all of this stuff the tools to be able to help players out. And if I have like already pre-thought out all of this stuff and have it to easily pull up a document and draw on it, or draw from it, it's much easier to be able to provide advice for players as they need it. And so I do think this is important, but I'm going to put a caveat in here to remind myself later. don't talk as much about mechanics, rather discuss what it is about the race and their history that make them particularly adept at these things. So it's like, if there's a race that's particularly good, like, think about gnomes being particularly good for things like artificing, being an artificer or something like that because of their tinkering abilities. Don't talk about like, oh, it'd be good for artificer because gnomes are designed to have this, that, or the other skill thing. Instead, I want to be reminding myself to offer up a sort of like a sort of guide or a sort of what's the word I'm looking for here? Man, my brain is not working tonight. Like I just want to be able to give characters an idea of what in the history makes them good at it. So it's like, yes, gnomes are good artificers because of their tinkering stuff, but it's more interesting to talk about how gnomes sort of have a history from, especially from pre-unhinging times, where because of their nimble fingers and their tendency to enjoy more rocky terrains that allow for them to mine minerals and whatnot. Because of these traits, they have a long history of tinkering. But then maybe I decide to add into their history the nature of the unhinging because of the gnomes and their beliefs in this, that, or the other deity or something like that gave them a particularly strong connection to various magical planes and magical schools. Now, once all the rifts opened up in the unhinging, and so because of that, they have now become particularly good at imbuing their creations with different magical traits, right? So that's the type of thing that I'm talking about in this document. In where's my finger? There it is. I keep making these gestures and they're not on the screen. And it's like, yeah, like I gotta like be right in front of my face to do stuff. I should just widen up the angle, but then you'll see more of my mediocre apartment, and who wants that? So, shoot, hold on, sorry. Okay, yeah, we're good. Oh, sweet, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I really appreciate all the help that you're giving me here, trying to give me a leg up starting all this stuff. I'm glad that I'm glad that you're enjoying my stuff too enough that you want to help share me and the content I'm making. That makes me feel good. I feel like that sort of speaks highly about at least the fact that I'm on the right track. So thank you, Dr. Smile. I appreciate that. Let's see here. So yeah, so that's kind of that's kind of where I'm coming from when I yeah, awesome, man. I'm glad you're loving it. Yeah, D&D is awesome, man. I love this stuff, and I love world building. I love imagining a world and creating it, and I think that's one of my favorite parts about D&D is that like it really gives me an outlet to not just do that creation but to share it. It's just a perfect hobby for that kind of stuff. So it's been great stuff. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm going for the classes. I what else do I want to do? I'm gonna change this. I'm just gonna call this racial traits, and then we're gonna call this one class affinities. Class affinities. I think that's good. Let's see. I'm gonna do. I also want to do. Man, so Dr. Smile, you and I clearly live very different lives, man. You're staying up till all hours in the morning. I am the complete opposite. I go to bed, like, I'm going to finish this at 9. I guarantee you I'm going to be in bed by 10 tonight. I am so beat, right? I'm going to be in bed by 10, and then I get up at, like, 4 a.m. That's what I do. I'm a morning person. I get up at 4 a.m. Well, I mean, tomorrow's a Saturday, so I might let myself sleep until, like, 5 or 6. But it's like, that's what I do. I get up bright and early, and then Yeah. Okay. So you do the same. So you're even more insane than me, and you get even less sleep than I do. That's impressive, man. I'm humbled by that. You know, people are amazed by me only needing like 5 or 6 hours of sleep a night. But man, you're taking it to a new level. Respect for that, and respect for getting up and getting a run in too. I that's that's what I do with my mornings. I get up at 4 so I can go to the when it's safe. I go to the gym, and and get a workout in before I got to be at work at 7. So respect, brother. I feel it. So let's see here. So we talked about class affinities. I want to talk about um, I want to talk about just like personality traits. I think that I think it's fun for players, even if they don't adhere to the personality traits of a race. I think it's fun. I find that players have fun with knowing what the standard is for the race, so that way they can either make themselves a typical member of that race or make themselves an outlier. So, oh yeah, man, I feel you. Having to finish a task before you go to bed or something like that. I feel you. I feel you. I'm definitely a very routine task-based person too. And for me, it's like, excuse me, goodness gracious. I'm the guy who I have to finish a chapter. If I'm reading, I have to finish a chapter before I close the book. You know, books that don't have chapters drive me insane. It's not comfortable. I don't like that situation. But so yeah, for the races here, I want to talk about their personality traits. So I'm just gonna do personality traits. Generalization. Essentially, I'm stereotyping all of the races. Is what I'm doing here. Now, I think it's just a matter. It's more so, and I'll put it in here. Generalizations about the personalities of the people that represent the race. This is less about outside beliefs and more about how the culture has shaped the race and how its members behave and communicate. Right. So like for example, something that I might put in there is talking about how dwarves are they have that sort of in every lore ever dwarves have that trait of being particularly stubborn, and oftentimes frustrating for others to work with, and the idea that and so what I'm kind of looking for is to expand on those types of things. It's like dwarves are stubborn, and that comes from the history of living in the mountains, places that are harsh, and unyielding, and only become hospitable through determination and a refusal to stop. Right. So like that's kind of the stuff that I always go for these types of things, because I think that's good stuff. But like I say, it's not about stereotyping them. It does inform, so that way you can have other races stereotyping, and that's the next section that I want to do. Is I'm going to put in here a header here, and I'm going to do interracial. How do I hold on? No, no, yeah. So interracial relations, which like I don't know. It's I would be lying if I said it wasn't weird for me to be like throwing around just the word race so casually here. And I think that comes from being an American and everything being all kinds of fucked up in our world over here. Um, but it's like, for fantasy settings, and I think for sci-fi settings too, when we're talking about like, you know, things like Star Wars and stuff that have all kinds of different like alien races and stuff like that in fantasy, that's a very important part. And I actually think it's a really valuable thing that oftentimes, yeah, that oftentimes gets like I think what's good about it is it can be used as a way to add allegory and commentary on the modern world into fantasy creations. And I think there are some writers that have done a lot of that, where they kind of utilize the race relations between, it makes it a bit more digestible to discuss difficult things. Um, if there's sort of that layer of fantasy over top of it, right? It kind of softens the blow a little bit when it's talking about like don't be racist towards elves as opposed to don't be racist towards black people, right? Like it kind of softens the blow. It makes it feel a little less real, which in some ways is kind of a crutch, but in other ways I think it's a really good way to facilitate. And so that's why, just long story short, that's why I I say long story short after I just had a very long description. It's like it doesn't do any good. That's like saying no offense, but I'm gonna say something really offensive. Anyway, that whole long rant just to say that I don't when I'm creating worlds to present to my players, I don't shy away from those difficult topics. Because I mean, with my players, I've only ever really played with friends, so it's not like I have a wide audience that I'm trying to teach things to. But I I like to be able to sort of challenge my players to sort of think about stuff. I don't like it to always be 100% escapism. I like to utilize it, and I so for those reasons I don't shy away from these topics, and that's why I like to include things like interracial relations, where I'm just talking about so what I'm going to do in here, um, how are how or let's see here, how well does this race get along with others? Make special note of allies and enemies, right? And so this is where we'll discuss things like, oh, well, this race and this race, things are still tense because they've oftentimes been at war, or this race and this race are particularly, close together because they sort of have common origins or they share common deities or something like that. So that's just where we discuss those types of things. And I think that's really good stuff to give to my players so that they can sort of take that, especially when we have players with interesting combinations of races. When you end up with, like, say, someone playing an elf and someone playing a Duergar. It's like, well, not a Duergar, like a dark elf. Duergar are typically a bit more relegated towards just the evil enemies thing and a little less of the, like, like just oh shoot, I'm blanking on the author. Just in what's his face? Not Terry Brooks. I'm reading Terry Brooks right now. What's the other author? Ah, that's embarrassing. There's an author. He does a lot of stuff that is really incorporated with D&D stuff. Yeah, it's inconsequential. I just wanted to give credit where credit was due. But like the dark elves tend to be much more incorporated in good guy lore within the D&D worlds and stuff like that, but there's still all those prejudices against them, and that's why I like including those things too, because I think it can create some really cool character dynamics. Like in my current group, we have one person who is the races don't necessarily have anything to do with it, but we have one character who is like a cleric, worshiper of Bahamut, very holy individual, in a party with a very vulgar and debaucherous tiefling, which is like devil-born individual. So it's like it's interesting to see them play with that dynamic because they have, they're kind of leaning into the prejudices that would be held against each other's races and stuff like that, or against the race slash class because of their histories, and that's really fun stuff. I think it adds for some really fun role play, and it makes for some really interesting story beats. So let's see here. What else? Is there anything else that I want to add for these? Honestly, I think that kind of covers most of what I have in mind. Like when I'm trying to organize a race, that's kind of what I want to have. So this is a very simple template. It's not the most exciting one to look at because it really is just a lot of paragraphs and stuff like that. But I think taking the time to fill out this type of lore as a world builder is a very important thing. Because one of the things that's really tough to do when you're doing world building is to maintain consistency. Um, I think that a lot of writers kind of write themselves into corners by accidentally doubling back on themselves and changing their minds without meaning to change their minds and stuff like that. So I find this to be incredibly valuable and incredibly helpful. Um, and the other thing that's really fun about it is, I can, when I'm of a mind to, start filling this out for all of these playable races. There's so many playable races, and I love them. I love how much there is to do in D&D and how many races there are that people can play. I love it. It's such good stuff. So looking at the clock, it's almost 9 o'clock, which means by my own schedule that I've set for myself and I try to adhere to, I'm off the hook, which is good because I'm beat tired. It's a long day of inspecting bowling ball and chip factories. Not even exaggerating. That's exactly what I was doing today for my day job. So it is good stuff, but my throat is sore from shouting over top of loud equipment. My eyelids are droopy from being on the move so much today. So I think it's time for me to log off. Oh, that's good timing there, Dr. Smile. Yeah, I mean I'm done for the night. I'm calling it. I'm so beat. It was a short one. But yeah, sleep well, Dr. Smile. We'll see you next time. I'm probably not gonna end up streaming tomorrow. Like I've been saying all week, I have a couple buddies are coming over to help me out. I am redoing my kitchen, and I'm very excited about it. I love cooking. It's one of the few things that I can actually do and enjoy in the COVID world we're living in. And my kitchen has been frustrating to me for a while because of how small it is, and because of how old all of my stuff is. So I have gotten myself some new storage tools as well as some new utensils and stuff, and I've got some buddies gonna come help me put it all together. So that's happening tomorrow night, which means I probably will not be streaming tomorrow night. I may stream Sunday to make up for it, but definitely not streaming tomorrow. And definitely be back at it with more writing stream on Monday. So yeah, so to anyone watching, live or watching replays, have a good weekend. Go out there, be good to each other, spread some good in the world, and we will catch you next time. This has been EnviroBoy, and I'm signing off, baby.